Hello and welcome to Gateway Cinema Episode 1, a podcast where we aim to delve deeper into the world of film, reaching beyond the mainstream canon. I'm your host Matthew and I'm joined by my two co-hosts.
Hello, my name is Ben Garson.
And my name is Haroon Ahmed Hamid.
You didn't need to say your whole name. Anyway, so in this first season, we're going to be calling it Converting a Nolan Fanboy, where we're going to be attempting to convert our resident Nolan fanboy, Ben. So to get into the thesis of this podcast, the term gateway cinema has been used to describe a certain point we all get as film fans where we have started to discover the potential that this art form has to offer through slightly weirder, less broadly appealing movies. A lot of this sort of starts with mindfuck type movies like Fight Club and Donnie Darko and the works of Christopher Nolan. And although he's become a huge mainstream force in the recent years, it's hard to argue that he is a lot of people's introduction into the wider possibilities of cinema, with his high concept blockbusters that play with narrative and form. However, it is unfortunately all too common that once people reach these gateway films, they don't move beyond them and start to stick around thinking this is as good as it gets. And this is where Ben comes in. Ben thinks Nolan is the bee's knees. So do you want to talk about your love for Nolan?
Yeah, so these guys obviously are not as big on Nolan as I am. And while I would
like
say
the
that Nolan
guy.
is my favourite film director, I do want to say one thing to begin with, which is that it's not that I think every single one of his films are in my top 12 films, but rather if you were to give me a director whose filmography I could pick a random film from and you had to ask me which one of those directors has a filmography that's most likely to give you a film you can enjoy with a random pick, that's Nolan. But I do want to say there are other films by other directors who that I do like more than some Nolan films. So, for example, I'm a sucker for Lord of the Rings by Peter Jackson, but I think if you looked at Peter Jackson's other films, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of them. Um, Other directors, Spielberg, also a big fan of Spielberg, but not all of his films, and Hitchcock as well. But yeah, so that's where I want to put my like of Nolan in relation to all the
Fair
other
enough.
directors.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Okay.
I like Nolan as well. I will let the record show that I'm a big fan of Nolan as well. But it sort of is almost a cliche for 14-year-old film bros to just love Nolan. So sort of the point of this podcast is going to be that we're going to take all of Nolan's filmography and we're going to be pairing each film with something that will generate an interesting point of discussion. So it can be a similar genre, direct inspiration, like today's episode with Inception and Paprika, or like thematic or budgetary. So like a low budget one, like following whatever. So it's going to be try to be a broad range of films, not necessarily just like I don't know, The Dark Knight with Heat or something obvious. We're going to try find something where we can talk about something interesting. Is there anything you want to say, Haroon, about you talk about the Kruger-Dunning effect and how we got to this point?
Yeah, so I've obviously been a fan of film as well, but I definitely suffer from what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Oh,
which
my bad.
essentially what that means is when it comes to knowledge and confidence, I know a little bit about some good movies, and it's put my confidence level on movies far too high. So I think my opinions are far more valid than maybe they truthfully are. But I'm still very passionate about those opinions, and that Dunning Kruger effect will absolutely shine throughout this season, most likely, and taper off later down the line in my film going career life.
I think with this podcast, I think we're going to be more focused on what it is that we enjoy, and hopefully, as the episodes go on, we'll become more knowledgeable about films, and then we'll actually feel the confidence to talk about films that we regard as good or bad, if like as films. But also, why is it called the Kruger-Dunning effect?
It was a couple of thieves that put lemon juice on their faces in order to prevent their faces showing up on CCTV footage. And when asked about that by policemen, that's exactly what they told them. And they told them with such confidence that it became an international term.
Yeah, so there's
For
a
being
graph.
overconfidently, stupid.
Yeah,
There's a
there's a
graph.
graph where it's like, so it starts here and then it goes here, and this is like your confidence of a subject and the knowledge. I guess the knowledge is that way. So confidence and knowledge, and
Can I
then it
share
goes
my
down. So
screen?
that's we can put it up
I
on the
can.
screen later on. You can share if you want. But anyway, so in the graphs I've seen, it's called like the peak of Mount Stupid at the top, and then the Valley of
Yeah.
Despair at the bottom. And I'd say maybe if I'm lucky, I've just reached the Valley of Despair, where I sort of am crudely aware of my lack of knowledge of cinema. So I went to film school. I know more than anyone else I know in real life. Yet every week I hear of 50 films or like film movements, subgenres that I've never fucking touched, or decades I've never even touched. I've barely gone beyond like the 60s. So I feel I know fuck all. And so this is sort of a good way to broaden my knowledge as well.
And I feel like
And
I've seen
Ben's.
everything. I feel like I've seen everything, and I've seen a fraction
We
of
know
Matt's
everything.
movies, which puts me at the sort of peak of delusionality. Delusionalness,
Yeah,
just
Mount
before the
Stupid.
Valley of Despair. Mount Stupid. I'm Mount Stupid, Matt's Valley of Despair. And, I say 600, Matt says 6 million, and Ben, you would say somewhere in between.
Honestly, no idea. I haven't seen. I've seen 600 movies. I don't know. I probably haven't seen 600 movies, but
Oh,
what I have tried to do recently is try to look into if like film theory, sort of storytelling theory. That's
Hmm.
what I'm trying to look into now. So you can try and watch as many films as you want, but I'm trying to actually read into like the theory behind it.
Yeah, cool. All right. So should we get into the discussion of today's films?
let's do it.
Absolutely.
So which one do we want to go for first? I'd say.
Inception.
Okay, cool. Agree.
Right. So, okay, I have obviously got a number of things to say about this movie. I've got some notes. They are somewhat
I've got some
expansive
notes.
too. So I thought what we could do is just give the audience, if they've seen the movie, a refresher, a warning of spoilers to come, and a refresher in terms of just a little walkthrough of the plot once more. How do you two feel about that?
Yep, sure.
Sure.
So I haven't actually got the plot in front of me. I was supposed to do that. I've got write plot before
dome.
podcast written down. So I'll do it off the dome. So we open. What the hell will we open with? Oh yeah, it's like
we're in limbo with
we're in limbo.
Watanabe.
The movie is about a couple of mind thieves. Leonardo DiCaprio plays one of the mind thieves, and he has a friend, his sidekick, who is also a good mind thief. And they are paid by big corporations to steal information from people's minds, and they get paid quite a lot of money to do this. And there is an idea in this world of a concept called Inception, in which you could plant an idea right into the depths of somebody's mind.
So they normally steal ideas, but this time, when their thievery of Ken Watanabe's mind goes wrong, he hires them to plant the idea of one of his business rivals to fold
into
the
the head
company
of a
once
Peaky Blinder.
he dies. Yeah, once daddy dies, and you get all his money, please delete the company.
And so they go into the Peaky Blinders' mind on a private jet. Oh no, it's not. It's first class on a commercial liner.
Explain the mechanics for an
Haroon
hour.
says Peaky Blinder, he means Tommy Shelby, played by
Cillian Murphy.
Who I think is the only actor who who's been in more Christopher Nolan films than Cillian Murphy is Michael Caine, I think.
Michael
They're
Caine.
best buds. Cillian Murphy. Cillian
So
Murphy.
they go into his mind, and it's a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, and maybe one more dream. And
Fuck with your mind.
it's to be honest, we'll get to that. I think what the movie also does that I have found on this rewatch is gaslights the audience immensely in one long action scene that takes place before we go into any dreams. But we'll get into that in a bit.
Well,
So, yeah. So, what do you guys want to do now? Like, where do you want to start topics wise on this film?
I'd love to hear Ben's thoughts on it first.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so Inception, this was...
So wait, you didn't get a chance to rewatch it though, did you? But you've seen it
Yes,
enough.
I should say, I haven't seen Inception since my third year of uni. So,
What?
yeah, I'm trying to think now when I last saw it. So that would be 2021?
Watch it
Yeah, I
today.
think. Yeah, I couldn't watch it today. I've been really busy recently, and I've only seen Inception out of the two films we're going to be discussing today. So I thought I'll see Paprika because that I've never seen before. But I've seen Inception quite a few times, and it was I think it was my fourth Nolan film that I watched. No, third, because I think it was Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, then Inception. Yeah, I don't think that's right. And yeah, I really liked Inception the first time I saw it. I've continued to enjoy it on subsequent viewings. I think maybe one of the reasons why I haven't seen it for so long is because I do remember when I watched it on the most recent occasion that I did realize that I have seen this film quite a few times. And as much as I like it, I think if you just keep on seeing film again and again, it can get a little bit boring. As much as I like it. So yeah, that's the reason why I haven't seen it recently. But from what I remember it's one of I wouldn't say it's my I wouldn't say it's in my top three Nolan films, but I think last time we did the ranking, I think I put it as number 5. So I do like this film. I like it a lot. The music, I think, always delivers when you got Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan working together.
There's a
that
really
music
good
is
electric
great.
guitar. At the end of the movie, when everything's closing and the
Time.
electric
Yeah,
guitar
yeah.
comes in,
Fuck
and
me. That
the amazing horns, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, Time is a really good tune by Hans Zimmer.
Yeah,
Really, really
it
good.
is insane, and yeah, the not to skip right to the end, but that ending when they all wake up and time's playing and they go
It's
they go
good.
into the air,
It's
whatever.
so nice.
It does give you such a crazy feeling of like
Yeah.
catharsis and like wow.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's carried by the music a bit, but even just like I don't know. It's a good ending. It's a good ending, and we'll get to how I feel about the rest of it. But yeah,
I do have a
strong
question I'd like to. I do have a question I'd like to postulate. But go on, Ben. Sorry, I've interrupted
I
you.
was
We've
just gonna
interrupted you.
So you were saying about the music with Christopher Nolan and how it's almost if that music carries a scene. I think one reason why his films do appeal to me a lot is because the music is, really integrated into the films, into pretty much all of his films. A lot more so than other films, and I only noticed this when I actually started watching films by the directors, and I realized, oh, actually, yeah, this guy actually uses music to a, really high degree. And I think maybe this is the reason why I like Lord of the Rings.
uses soundtracks either. It's all. I think I asked ChatGPT how many times he's used like not original music, and it's like twice, and one of them's the fucking French song in this film.
Haroon, did you?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I had a question to continue things or kick things off, but we've already kicked things off, so we'll continue things with this. In this movie Inception, for those of you listening, when you go into the dream, the idea is in order to not get confused with what's real and what's not real, you always hold a personal item with you of which nobody else aside from yourself understands the dimensions of, so it behaves, the physics of it at least behaves in a way that would be unique to you, and if it behaved any different to that, then you could be in somebody else's dream. For instance, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the sidekick in this Inception movie. What was I going to say? It's not a time heist, it's not a time heist. Memory heist, a brain dream heist. He's one of the mind thieves, and he's got a
Reverse
loaded
ice?
dice. He's got a loaded die. I will say. I think it's the singular
If you're
thing for
single,
it. Singular
yeah,
noun.
die.
He's got a loaded die, and basically that means if he's in somebody else's dream and they've come up with the dreamscape, then that die won't behave in the same way. So it will land randomly because naturally most people are under the impression that you throw a die, it's random. It's not going to be likely that it's loaded, and if it is loaded, it wouldn't be preset to what his personal loaded die is loaded to. So he can flip that. It always land on a 4, and he knows he's in the reality. If it's not, it's not. Right. So my question is, you two, what would your totem of choice be? And then I do have something. I'll say something after, but you tell me what your totems of choices are, and then I'll say mine after.
Probably, probably a coin, which has got neither heads or tails, but has got something else unique.
Do you know what's funny? She says, maybe I'll have a coin, and then Leonardo DiCaprio says, no, that's way too obvious.
Really?
Yeah, he actually says that in the
film,
movie.
you'd know that.
That actually happens in the movie. She's like, coin. He's like, no, not that one.
Does this
Fair
count?
enough.
This is a good one. This is from a club in Mexico, and it's a drink token, and I've had it in my wallet for years.
Ooh, that is kind of good.
No, that'll be mine. It's the only thing I can think of that isn't like a generic thing that everyone has.
So, Ben, are you sticking with coin?
I guess so. Yeah, I can't.
Okay, yeah. It's not a great question. I just want to. It's great when I say this next bit. So I think that. The plot holes with this movie are so endless. Like they really are. But one important thing to know is that if another person can't know the behavior of a certain object, how are they going to know, for instance, what your nether regions might look like, right? So an easy thing to do is just check the size. Yeah. Check the size of your what's between your legs, and if it's what you know.
But you're plugged in, so it's you, isn't it?
Nah, because exactly. These are loads of plot holes, right? Because if we go into Matt's dream right now, and this is how you could find out your real friends too. We go into Matt's dream, right? And then we check our junk.
Where is this going?
I'm projecting what I think about you guys.
Exactly, because it's Matt's subconscious would naturally fill up the entire dreamscape, including our physical forms, including our nether regions as well, which you could inspect to see, is this the right size? Is it not? Like, if it's not, then we're in his dream. That would be my totem, genuinely. Right? That's how you could always tell.
No, but hang on. I haven't seen it for ages, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought the idea was they build the world and you then go into the world. But it's not as if you being in the world they built means that, say, your height's altered or your width's altered or some.
Well, if you're going into someone else's dream, it's their entire creation, isn't it? Including their ideas of you. And the possessions you may hold that you bring into the dream with you, like a dice or a spinning top.
But wouldn't it be their memory of you? So, like, say
it would be, it would be their memory of you.
But the fact you're in the dream means that, if you like, your actual person is substituted for the memory. Isn't that the idea? Because it's not as if you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt walking around at the same time as actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Sure, but in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's dream, right, and his memory of Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah. So when Leonardo DiCaprio appears in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's dream, and the whole point of the totem is that nobody else could project the specific weight or dimensions of that totem except for you, because it's yours and nobody else has touched it, right? Matt, am I making sense?
I'm just going a little bit over my head.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it for a
while.
while.
It's not perfect, but it sort of makes a point about how the logic isn't perfect in the film. The fact that you can bring this up and be somewhat right about what you're saying about dick size.
If you have issues with the logic for Inception, believe you me, you're going to have issues with the logic of Paprika 10 times over. We'll get onto that soon,
Right.
don't worry.
We will get into that. Anyway,
But before we go on to anything else of the film, Haroon, do you like the film or do you not like the film? Because that
Do
is
I
a
like
main
Inception? Of course. No. Of course, I like this movie. I definitely like this movie. It'd be impossible not to, frankly. But I mean, like, I just feel that he had such an enormous fun concept to play with, and the dream is a rainy city, a hotel, right, and then a ski resort. It's like, could you be more boring, man? He's so boring. Like for such an maybe if I was a bit younger, I would say a really clever concept like this and a real grand concept like this to delve into the recesses of somebody's mind and interact personally with their subconscious. How did he not imagine just a little bit more than what if they're in a hotel reception, maybe? And what if then they're in a van and then maybe they go to a ski resort
spins.
and then the room spins? It's like, come on, it's boring.
Yeah.
Like that's basically the only real problem I have with this movie. That's it. It's visually, it could be so much better than it is with regards to what the concept is built off of.
Yeah, like dream creativity is lacking.
Yeah.
I'd say again as well, I do like this film, and when I think about it and I tried to rate it on Letterboxd, and I was like, it was already at 4-star, and I didn't like it as much as I liked it last time, so I knew I was going to lower it, but I couldn't lower it that much, so I put it to 3.5-star. And so
no, it's 4. It's 4.
It's not, because when I sat down and I tried to make notes on it, all I had was negative notes.
All I had was negative notes.
Not to quote the Joker, but so I was like, okay, let's try to talk about it. So I was like, okay, let's think about the editing. I hated the editing and the pacing of it, and so I wrote here, I wish he had a shred of patience. It's just fucking...
But on that note, I think that you did mention something that I believe Nolan did try to make true in this movie, which is that every single scene is shot almost like in medias res of that scene, so it feels like you're always within some disjointed memory of somebody or a dream.
Like they say the line in the movie about, like, do you remember how you got here? No, I don't remember how I got here. Yeah, that's because you're dreaming. So it is, everyone, like, it's edited like that. It's meant to be that,
and it really feels like that. And on a rewatch, it really feels like that. And I think he captures that really well.
Yeah,
but that dreams are frustrating.
Sure. Anyway, then my next point is exposition and bad characters. And I noted that Tom Hardy and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, what are their characters? Nothing. They're there because they need people to do the kick for the next dream. That's why they're there. Because you need someone there to wait. It's just to service the plot, and there's nothing to them apart from. We'll get to that movie archetypes later. I put here, at least Elliot Page and Ken Watanabe had more purpose, but not really. I like Ken Watanabe a bit more. Another note I have is Nolan's violence is the most pussy shit ever. And I say this in a way, I find it a bit immoral to pretend like blood doesn't exist, and when you get shot, it's one shot and they're dead. And I think that if we're portraying murder in films, maybe there should be consequences. I guess it's so not real murder because they're in a dream, though.
Quite clearly, Nolan was very much aware that there is a lot of killing going on, and he always usually feels the need to explain anything that somebody might have a criticism of within the movie. So, Elliot Page's character. Are you killing them, guys? No, they're just projections. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, audience. Don't worry, you guys. They're just projections. Like,
But that's a bit of a broader criticism of his general
Yeah,
attitude
yeah.
towards violence in films. It doesn't makes too much sense in this film because
The
again they're not real
exposition
people.
in this movie, after Ben showed me this video about some man called Thomas Flight on YouTube talking about Nolan's exposition problem, it is readily apparent in this movie. They tell you everything and they repeat it over and over again, so it's drilled in your head. That's probably why I liked it so much when I was younger.
It's a bit insecure,
you can't. But you can't not get it. Basically, he makes you not. That's why I liked it when I was younger, because you watch that, you absolutely get it first time because they hammer that nail in. It's like you're in a classroom almost.
You should say the video that Haroon's referring to, the film that Thomas Flight is criticizing the most, overwhelming the most, is Tenet. He thinks that,
and that is the most egregious
Inception and
example.
Interstellar have much better handling of exposition because it's.
It's still really
bad. But
bad.
That scene in Interstellar of the wormhole thing is a bit.
Oh
funny.
no, the Interstellar scene, I
better.
completely agree with that. I remember watching that the first time and thinking, you would know exactly how a wormhole would work, mate. And then same with relativity when they're talking about how much you'd age. But Inception, I think the issue with Inception I have is that it's been quite a while since I've seen it. But just to be clear, you're really big fans of Tenet.
I'm a huge fan of tennis. I love challenges.
Both tennis and Tenet. But and that I do remember having a big exposition problem.
The problem I had with that exposition is I couldn't hear the fucking words they were saying.
Yeah, the sound design was going to be really bad for that film, but I didn't watch it in cinema. But whenever I have seen it, I've always watched it with subtitles.
Yeah, next time I watch it, I'll watch it with subtitles. When we do it for this, whatever we fucking do with it.
All right, let's move on. So I think Leonardo DiCaprio should FaceTime his children.
True. Yeah, 2010.
If you can go into somebody else's mind in this world, they got FaceTime for sure, I reckon.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, of course, it's fine. It's fine.
His kids have.
I've got something.
He has FaceTimed them, but we just don't see that.
Could do.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, Matt, go.
I have positive notes. Here are my positive notes. They're not that. They're not many of them. Not that I hate it, but there isn't many of them that I can talk about that I actually love.
It's easier to criticize a movie you don't like.
I don't dislike it. 7 out of 10 is good. This time around, the Cobb and Mal dynamic did stuff for me. I was like, this is cool. And it's led me to believe, when I was watching that scene of Mal, is it Mal or Mal? Mal? Anyway, his wife, his dead wife.
Mal.
I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that Christopher Nolan had a nightmare that Emma Thomas, or whatever his wife, or Thompson, I can't remember, he's got a wife.
Emma Thomas.
I think he had a dream that Emma, his wife, was going to kill herself and frame him for murder. And I think that's what started this plot. Because when I was watching that scene, I was like, this is like the only real feelings in this whole...
Yeah,
it's like it's a nightmare like scenario. When you're watching that scene,
it really is.
That would be horrible.
So
that's probably the starting point.
Just a refresher for those that are listening at the moment, Moore is Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, his wife, and... So Leonardo DiCaprio incepts this notion into her mind that reality isn't real. Like, we have to come out of this dream state, and then when we're back to reality, that reality is not real.
Limbo.
Yes. Yes. So when they're in limbo together, when they're down at one dream level,
she's like not accepting it that she thinks is real.
She doesn't.
So he's like, we need to kill ourselves because this isn't real. And then when she comes out of the
Leonardo DiCaprio, but why did he sadistically incept this notion into his...
It's not sadistic in the movie.
Why did he do this?
Because they needed to leave limbo because their kids weren't there. It makes sense in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't think it's insidious.
Sorry. That just dawned on me just now that he incepted that idea into her mind so that she, out of limbo, to convince her to leave limbo, and then when they got to the real world, she was in reality. I'm with you. Yeah,
that all worked for me. I really liked that, and I did like Leonardo DiCaprio being sad when his wife killed herself.
Oh no!
I was like, sure, that's good. What else?
Oh Jesus, more. I don't really feel anything when that happens. I can't lie.
Yeah, so just
Jesus.
on this, I've heard some people accuse Nolan of not being good at developing or just like creating female characters. I think someone described it as Nolan can't do women. And
You can't do any
I think
characters really, but that's a whole separate point.
I know that you feel
Who's your
absolutely
favorite
nothing
Christopher
great
Nolan
for when
character?
she dies in The Dark
Is it
Knight. And to be
Batman?
fair, I feel pretty similar. I think I really don't care much for Kitty, Oppenheimer's wife in Oppenheimer, and I think the same
What,
with
Florence
Mel here.
Pugh?
No, that's
Is
his
that Florence?
No,
mistress.
that's his
Oh.
mistress. Yeah,
I like Florence Pugh. I like her when she's in that movie, and I like her when she's on the screen.
I like when they sit opposite each other, butt naked, with their legs crossed.
I like it when they were talking about socialist policies, actually, Matt.
Yeah,
So
I like that they're communists. Yeah, I guess he does just do the dead wife thing. It is a thankless.
he just likes it. He just likes it.
It's
That's
simple
all
and
we can say.
it's sort of universal, isn't it? Well, what if my wife was dead? That'd be sad. He's a family
So
guy.
it's
Lucky
going to
there's
be a
family
dream
guy
within a
like Christopher
dream.
Nolan.
It's going to be a bunch of guys go down. We'll find out what this guy's relationship with his dad is. Maybe some women in here, Nolan. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, he's got a wife. She's dead, but
And Elliot Page's character, obviously the character's a woman. Yeah, sure. Could be anyone though, couldn't it? Is the thing. Could just be anyone. No, yeah.
she did. Honestly, there is no trait of the character that Elliot Page plays in that
Could
movie.
not tell you the name.
There
as you were saying
is.
before
You
this started.
don't even know the name of this character, and we've
It's the
just
audience
watched the
character.
movie.
So-
There is nothing
so
to go on
I
with regards to his
don't think
characters.
that you remembering or not remembering a name is a sign of a film being enjoyable. Like, I remember
I
those
think
ones
I-
when
No.
Star
But
Wars.
That's more of a
something.
commentary on his ability or lack thereof to develop a character within a movie. If we don't know the name, knowing the name of a character, like I
It's
know
not
you
even knowing the name. It's you don't know the traits either beyond their purpose in the plot. You don't
Yeah.
know anything about any of them
Yeah.
apart from Mal and Cobb and Ken Watanabe, who's a businessman, and that's all you know. It says something, and the fact that we don't know any of their names. What's Tom Hardy called? Tom Hardy. What's Joseph Gordon-Levitt called?
Yeah,
Joseph
true.
Gordon-Levitt.
I don't know any of their names. I know Moore's name because
Cobb.
Leonardo DiCaprio shouts
Yeah.
it. He's Cobb. Okay. All right, let's move on. Enough of this bashing. We got to be
No.
nice.
Okay, no. Yeah. Okay,
I have an
this is nice.
interpretation of this movie.
Wait,
Go
can
on,
I?
Matt.
Okay. No, you go. If you've got an actual
Okay.
interpretation.
So it's not really mine. It's Matt sent me this over, and
Okay,
then I
was
watched.
going to say the same thing.
Okay. We'll go tit for tat here a little bit.
Ben,
then.
do you know about the interpretation of it's a film about filmmaking?
Yeah, I saw this the other day. I think Haroon mentioned it to me a couple of weeks ago, and
Okay.
I did watch a video on this. It could well have been the same video. That you
I didn't
just
watch this video, but I think maybe I've seen this video. I feel like I've heard it a lot, so I probably know. But I watched it with that in mind, and I couldn't see anything in it beyond the character archetypes.
I got a hit of it. So for me, Saito, he is Hollywood basically.
Who?
Right?
Ken Watanabe.
Ken Watanabe is
He's maybe the
Hollywood.
studio,
He is.
isn't he?
He is the industry of
He's
Hollywood
he's
that
the
demands
executive
movies
producer.
from directors. He demands movies that make money from directors, right? And then our directors, our movie makers, is Leonardo DiCaprio and co. And and then our audience.
They've all got their individual, because Tom Hardy's the actor because he's playing the role and manipulating.
They've all got their part to play when orchestrating the storyline and narrative of the dream in which to convince Cillian Murphy he is a part of, and then for him to eventually divulge his secret and vested interests instead of keeping and maintaining his heritage his inheritance, to split up his father's empire for the benefit of the man that's paying these DiCaprio to do all of this. Yes. So we have Saito, Ken Watanabe. He is Hollywood. Then you've got the directors and the actors and the cameramen, which is Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like the producer.
Yeah. Yep. And they design the dream world. They design the narrative. Tom Hardy literally acts parts of Cillian Murphy's close family members, for instance. And then we have the audience within the movie from this very sort of meta-analysis. which is Cillian Murphy himself. He is the one in which
They're
sort
trying
of
to convey the
very
message to him for their
yeah,
own capitalistic gain.
yes,
So
exactly
yeah.
that.
So when I was watching it, I was like, it's
I
not
got that.
doing it for
I
me.
got that. It
I
worked
got
for me.
I got the archetypes, but I didn't get what the fuck it was saying about it. I was like, it's not saying anything about
Yeah,
filmmaking
yeah, I
until
know.
I read
Yeah,
this interpretation, which I can't fully love it because of this, because it wasn't my own experience, but it's a good interpretation. And let me try. I think I wrote it down, and let me get this up. So this is from Darren Mooney, who
I mean,
is an
I think
Irish.
the purpose of that interpretation, though, just thinking about it now, is that movies can work because it does
What do you
work in the
mean?
end, and like
Well, he's saying it's very cynical, which is
delivering
what I
a
liked
message.
about it.
It is cynical, though, isn't it? But
It has to be cynical,
but
because
movies do work.
while I was watching, I was like, these fucking guys are evil. So when I was getting the catharsis of like the ending, I was like really conflicted, because I was like, they're doing it. They're tricking a guy into thinking he's resolved his problems with his dad so that another man can get rich, and I
Yes.
was like, why are these the hero characters? I wish there
Yeah.
was some comeuppance for Ken Watanabe.
Yeah,
But
there is an ethics issue there.
then reading this, I might just read it verbatim. Which one is the good one? Okay. Inception is a remarkably cynical film about the art of movie production, which is really saying something coming from the director responsible for The Prestige. Indeed, Inception feels very much like a companion piece to The Prestige, a movie about Nolan working through his complicated feelings about what he does. This is a film about a team hired by a massive multinational conglomerate to construct a narrative that furthers its economic interests. It's also a film about how everything inevitably bends towards capitalism, where even dream spaces are colonized and weaponized, corporatized and occupied. It's also a movie about how the audience itself becomes complicit in this. Fisher, which is Cillian Murphy's character apparently, is ultimately an eager participant in this exercise, manipulated by Cobb and his team into committing what is effectively an act of violence on his own psyche in return for unearned catharsis. Inception is one of the bleakest movies ever made about the awe-inspiring transformative powers of the medium. It's great. And that was a 5-star review. And I love that interpretation a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
But it's just not 5-star for me, because
But
I got that from reading that, but not from watching it. So maybe next time I'll watch it in a few years.
I would like to read. So was that an essay or was that just a review?
It's just a letterbox review. But I listened to this guy's podcast. I listened to it a bit. I listened to the episode they did on Inception, and yeah. But that's a good summarization.
Because I'm sure there's an essay that's been written somewhere, because the video I saw, I think the guy who made the video was actually cited credits to, I think someone who actually did write an essay on it, and maybe he was that person who put the idea out there, and then everyone else has since digested it, and then when they've rewatched the film, they've suddenly thought, oh yeah, I see it now. And even though I haven't seen the film since hearing the theory, just the way that person explained it to me, like the fact that the process of producing a film is pretty similar to the way they, if you like, create the dream world and the various other parallels. I just think, oh yeah, I see that there. But I do wonder if the reason why you have that pattern in Inception is mainly because Christopher Nolan, as a director who's worked in Hollywood for quite a few years by this point, has had many interactions with, say, studio people trying to interfere with his work, and obviously has plenty of experience directing various film sets. I'm just wondering if he called upon that knowledge and that experience. Yeah,
it was just after The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, so it was when he was working in it's a product, isn't it? Because he doesn't own the IP. He obviously probably wanted to direct them, but it's after that's probably the least creative control he's ever had on a project to that point. So it makes sense in the context of when it comes in his career as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something else to bear in mind, because at no point do I watch that. At no point have I seen that film or thought about it since then, where I thought, "Oh yeah, this is the theme of the film." Like I think the main theme of the film is really the power of ideas. The fact that an idea, however rogue, can actually shape you. And they have a pretty cynical take on ideas. Like they talk about it being a parasite that ends up, sort of breeding in your mind and expanding that way. But I think what the film does have is this appreciation for the effect of ideas that it can have on someone's trajectory in life, which is one that I really like. And I think while you have that parallel to film production, I I'm not convinced that is what the film is about. I think it's a nice sort of
Yes,
Easter
I
egg to the
sort of
side, and I
remember
think it's
you.
mainly because of that influence from Nolan and his past.
But if it is about
But
that, it's
I
an
don't think
infinitely
it's.
better film.
You think it's simply
To me.
better with the film
If
interpretation?
if it is about that, I think that's really good and clever, but I'm not convinced that it is really about that.
Yeah, I think it's just. I think it's just a. I think of it as more of like an Easter egg. BC, I would be curious to hear Nolan's response if he's asked about it, because I think he has been asked about it. But I don't think he said, "Oh yeah, that was my plan the entire time." I think it's mainly because he knows what it's like to have to create something, and he's obviously got the expertise, and he wants to do it his way. But you've got his financial backer behind him who's saying, "No, we need to do it this way, for reasons X, Y, Z." And yeah, I think that's main. I think that's the main reason why you have that parallel.
Are we at the half-hour mark?
We are at 43 minutes mark, so we can't
Okay,
spend too long on
I
Paprika.
just need to say something on Inception quickly. When they're in Mombasa and Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to recruit Tom Hardy, there is a moment in which, seeing as Leonardo DiCaprio is basically internationally a wanted fugitive, um, there's this. Uh, there are operatives that are after him from rival companies in which, for instance, he like didn't complete the jobs, and he sat talking to Tom Hardy in this very cool like setting in Mombasa, and he noticed some agents looking over their shoulders, looking at him, and they orchestrate a plan so he can make this escape from these agents. And he's running down the street, and the agents are chasing him, and then he runs into this cafe and he's trying to just like act chill, but every single person in the cafe turns their heads towards him, just as within a dreamscape in Inception, when you're going down into a dream level and the host is concerned that something is going on in the dream, the projections will all turn their heads to try and find the source of the disruption. This exact same framework is used within what is told to us to be reality within Mombasa in this cafe. And moreover, as Leonardo DiCaprio escapes, he runs through this narrow section and then just escapes through this really this gap that seems to like keep narrowing or something. And then just as he comes out, he happens across Saito, the man to save him like from being caught by these agents. Like it's doesn't make any sense. That scene doesn't make any sense whatsoever within the confines of reality. And after we're told about um, the framework of how dreams occur, the environment of dreams, it is very clear from that scene that Nolan is trying to tell us that they are in fact dreaming. And so this is a big part of it's like it's such a weird thing because I'm 100% sure Nolan is basically just trying to gaslight me to convince me that there is no reality within this movie,
Well,
and we could always just be in Cobb's mind basically, and
Mal
we'd
says
never
that to
know.
him as well. She
Yeah,
basically
but
points out that
yeah,
that scene is like she says like,
yeah,
oh,
she
you're always being
literally points
chased
this out.
around by yeah. So
Um,
that sort of
Yes.
also
j-
fucking
j-
is annoying.
just to close Inception, because we had definitely gone over time on this one, but just to close it, Michael Caine has confirmed that Nolan's intention is that for at least some of the film, they are in reality, and he confirmed this because I think Michael Caine asked him, what's a dream? What part of the film is a dream? What part of the dream is reality? And Nolan told him, whenever you're in the scene, it's reality. Whenever you're not, well, actually, no, he didn't say whenever you're not in the dream, it's not reality. But he said, whenever you're in the scene, Michael, that's guaranteed reality. So, point being that
Was he just trying to make an old, confused man happy?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it just might have been appeasing that, because that makes, unfortunately, that scene in Mombasa, you just cannot deny it. Mole
He wants
points it
his
out
cake
later on in the
and
movie.
eat it too.
Yeah, he literally, yes, exactly.
I want my cake and eat it too. I want my cake and eat it too.
Like, Leonardo DiCaprio walks into this cafe, and it's so unnatural the way every single person looks over and is immediately fixated, right? So unless nothing, right?
That can't take
That's it.
that
They're in a
narratively.
dream.
That can't take place in a film in a dream.
That can't take place.
But it's conveyed to you as if it does. And the ending, the spinning top. It's obvious that one, he doesn't care because he's with his kids, and two, it's not a dream because it wobbles, and that is just, you can't. It barely works with both at the same time. So there's a reality. We end up in the reality, and that scene where he's being chased by the dream people, clearly like in a dream, that has to be reality too. Because
Ben, I wish you watched this movie before you did this podcast, because if you had seen the scene in Mombasa, the one I'm talking about, you would be able to very easily understand my problem with what Nolan is trying to do, because it's either he is playing a little sadistic game with us and he's just trying to gaslight us into having conversations that make no sense and end in nothing. And that's but that's a kind of not a very good thing to do in a movie.
I guarantee you,
he wants his cake and
because
eat
of
it
how
too.
much I hated Paprika, I'm definitely going to be watching Inception as a cure to that pile of dog shit. And at the next podcast,
let's
at the very beginning, I will say what I think of that scene in Mombasa and just the film in general. But I won't talk about it for too long. We'll be talking like a 2 5-minute skit.
Cool. Right,
I'll definitely watch Inception before then.
Kick it off.
Paprika. Yeah.
Who wants to do the little plot?
Matt,
do the plot?
Feel so strongly about it.
Nah, no one's seen this movie that we're talking to at the moment. The audience. It's going to be pretty rare that someone's actually watched this.
I think this is pretty big.
Okay, it's probably. Do you want to? Should we do a plot walkthrough anyway?
We can try.
Let's just do the intro, because, we haven't got too much time left, and there's no need for
the story begins with Dr. Atsuko Chiba, a reserved and serious scientist working at the Foundation for Psychiatric Research. So she secretly used a device called the DC Mini, which allows therapists to enter and explore the patient's dreams to treat their psychological problems. Under the alias Paprika, Atsuko uses this device outside of official channels to help people deal with their emotional and mental struggles. But, okay, this is a really long plot.
Yeah.
Basically, it's very similar to Inception.
Someone steals it.
Someone steals the device.
Dreams and reality blend together until we solve the problem. It's the very basic fucking plot. Ben, why do you hate it?
One parallel thing it has with Inception is that dreams play a big role. I think that's...
Yeah. I would say that's quite a big part of Inception, personally.
But in terms of what the actual plot...
Inception is a concept movie that Nolan created that doesn't really... Yeah, go on.
I think he was directly inspired by Paprika. I think you've seen it. I don't know this. I haven't really checked this.
I did think it was interesting how many... there were a few scenes that I do remember thinking, oh, that's like Inception. So, when they're going through the lift at one point, and she says, oh, here's the adventure world. Here's the...
Oh, yeah, that literally does happen in Inception.
Yeah. So I think there were certain things I saw in this film that I thought, oh, yeah, I can see how that would have inspired that in Inception. But, I mean, in terms of the plot for this film, it was all over the place compared to with Inception, which had a fairly linear structure, even though, if you like, the time wasn't linear because time was passing more slowly in the dream, versus, say, in higher levels up. But I could at least follow Inception from the first time I saw it. Whereas...
Yeah, this is the thing. I agree that it's hard to follow, and I think that's the point. And where Inception has a reputation of being like confusing, trippy, mindfuck movie, but it's very much here's what's happening, here's what's
Yeah.
happening. Please remember, this is what's happening. This is the mechanics. Whereas this one genuinely felt in a cool way while I was confused and lost for the first half of the movie. Genuinely, first 45
Me
minutes, I was
too.
like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's by design, and
Yeah.
it's to bring that surreal, dreamlike fucking feeling where you don't know. It's like when in Inception, it's like, oh, you don't know where it started, you don't know where
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't remember
Exactly.
coming here,
There's
but
a
it's
difference in intent with
good.
Paprika versus Inception, where Nolan wants to have his cake and eat it and wants to remain ambiguous yet unambiguous. He wants to tell Michael
Yeah,
Caine that there is reality.
explain
He wants to have
everything.
a very black and white explanation. It's a contained world, and you can explain everything within this world. Whereas Paprika and generally anime as a whole, I would say, has a trend of being more open world building, endless
Mhm.
possibilities, more like greater immersion, right?
Less trapped in logic,
And
like you,
and so I think you definitely hit
inherently.
the nail on the head when you mentioned that Paprika confuses you in the first 45 minutes by design. Like it's supposed to you're supposed to bask in this dreamlike
Yeah, because
state
you know
that the
you're in
movie offers.
reality, and then suddenly you're not in reality, and you're like, huh? And that just happens quite a lot for the first bit of it. It's way more purposeful and genuinely confusing rather than appearing to be confusing while explaining every last detail over and over again.
See, I didn't think it was purposeful. It just came across as just a random mishmash of various dream worlds together, and there was it just never. Also, I thought what was strange about it was that I never got a real sense of what kind of film this was. And I did actually look this up afterwards, and it did say, "Oh, one of the things about this film that appeals to many people is the fact that it tries to be a number of different things at the same time. It tries to be a sci-fi, it tries to be mystery, and I don't like that in films when they try and put too much into it, try and make it appeal to too many different areas. I think it's fine if you have, say, a crossover of one genre and another, maybe even if you get three, and that's fine. But I think as long as you don't actually end up
I
muddying
wouldn't
the
say it's
final
more than
product. So I
two or
thought with
three.
this one, I remember watching it thinking, I actually have no idea what this film is meant to be about, if it's about anything.
Oh.
Do you want to take that up?
Um, yeah, Haroon, you should go because I've been chatting shit.
I think the movie definitely has confused you from what you've said. There is a storyline and a plot narrative. There are uh, there is a beginning, middle, and end, and catharsis at the end. Did
Hmm.
you just sort of not understand what was going on through the movie? Because I did mention that you've got to really like focus through
Yeah,
this
it's a lot
one.
of names as well, and I find it harder to
Yeah,
remember like non-English names as well,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
So,
because I
That's
would.
so
And
I do
so,
wonder if part of the reason why I was lost for a lot of it, and the thing is, like if you asked me to pause a scene in the film and ask me, right, explain to me what's going on here, explain to me what revelations we made, I think I would have been able to tell you what revelations we made. So, like when you see the guy running down the corridor and there's that story about him making a film with somebody he knew. I'm kind of following it along, but then I'm thinking at the same time, why do I care? Like I really don't know why I should care about any of this stuff. And I did actually make some notes while I was watching the film, and I think it got to I think it's about the hour mark, and the film is I think an hour and 25, 26 minutes if you don't include the credits. And by the time it got to the hour mark, I was well and truly like when you reach that point in the film where you've just given up any emotional investment. Like you're watching it purely so that you can see how the events play out, how the ending's reached. But you really couldn't give two fucks about whether the heroine or the hero dies, or whether the bad person gets defeated, whatever. And I think around the hour mark, I just completely lost all motivation. I remember just sitting there thinking, please bring this to an end so I can actually talk about this in the podcast rather than Inception, which I sadly, very unfortunately, did not watch and instead watched this film. I just thought it just completely turned me off. And but you know what I will say? There was one positive from this film, and that is that I'm learning more about myself in terms of the stuff that I don't like in film. And this film actually reminded me. In fact, can either of you guess what film this reminded me of? I'd
Holy
be
Mountain.
amazed.
The Holy Mountain.
Not Holy Mountain.
Not Holy Mountain.
Not Holy Mountain. Can you guess, Matt? I'd be
Have
amazed
we
if you got
talked?
this.
Have we
was
talked
that?
about it?
No, we have not.
Oh.
I'll give you one clue. It has been reviewed on my Letterboxd.
Men?
No.
Okay.
It reminds me of The Green Knight. And the reason why is because
do you not like
The
The Green Knight?
I do not like The Green Knight. And the reason
I
why
don't
is
love The Green
because
Knight.
yeah, it's this is the one with
I
Dev
should
Patel
rewatch
we're
it,
talking
though.
about, right?
Yeah.
There is only one Green Knight. Yeah.
Pretty sure.
So, the reason why this reminds me of that is because I went to that film with really high hopes. I like Dev Patel. I also like the Arthurian legends, and I thought, oh yeah, this will be a really, really cool film to watch. And visually, I thought it was stunning. The problem I had with it was that it was the use of dream logic. I just realised that I really cannot stand dream logic,
I
and
think
this is
with
definitely the case.
Okay,
Is that
with
why
yeah,
you
Drive
like
as well.
Inception? Because there's no dream logic and it's just
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because with Inception, they're within dreams, but if like the dreams are normal, yes, you've got people, rearing their heads
that's the
whenever
biggest
something
problem
strange
I
happens.
have with Nolan's dream is that
Yeah.
that's just not what
It's
dreams are. The
boring.
dreams aren't,
And I loved the
driving.
dreams in this.
Yeah, they're like
I
it,
loved it. It's
to
so
me, it's
creative.
like almost more realistic
Yeah,
because
fully. Because that's what dreams are like. You're just like,
there's a
what?
very
Where the
silly
fuck am I?
moment in Inception where Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a submachine gun and he's shooting people off a roof, and then
And Tom Hardy pulls out
Tom Hardy's
a
like,
grenade
"Oh wow,
launcher.
nice knife."
Dream a little
Or,
bigger. Dream a little
that's
bigger. He
that's
says.
that's not a knife. This is a knife.
Yeah.
And then he whips out a grenade launcher, and it's like, if you can whip out a grenade launcher, can't you just teleport over there and then slit all their throats and then just teleport back? Like, where is the
Shoot daggers out your
limit
fingers.
here on what we can dream up? Literally, like it's very closed-minded, I think. And
And this
Paprika
was
does,
so open and surreal
yeah.
and just fantastical, and like I loved the part where when they first clock that the dreams are colliding and the parade comes into the cinema and they rip through the fucking back wall, and I'm just
Right.
like, this stuff is just so cool.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because when that scene happened, I remember thinking there is arguably one of the stupidest lines I've ever heard in cinema that I've just heard uttered, and I have to note it down because I have to mention this to the guys on the podcast. Let me try and find the. Oh yeah, so that Takita guy, who, by the way, what is it with this film of fat shaming? Like the number of times they made fun of the guy for being fat.
She falls in
I
love
Well,
with
it
him at
comes
the
around
end.
exactly. It comes around at the
What?
end.
She
She falls
literally
in love
falls
with
in
him?
love. She literally says it's not about the outside; it's about what's inside. Like
Yeah.
they answer
No,
this.
but then she says, but even then, that has its boundaries too. I think you're like, yeah, there is such a thing as too fat. And it's
Well,
Well, you
he
just
is
can
like,
be
huge.
too fat though,
yeah,
can't you?
no,
You
no,
can
no.
get too
But see,
fat.
I agree.
He'll be
I'm
28
not going to
at
sit
his
here and
peak.
say it's absolutely fine to be fat. Like you're going to be absolutely, fine. Or you're not going to have a high risk of diabetes or that sort of thing. Like you will. But I found it so strange this film, just the number of times that they made fun of the guy for being fat. I thought, okay. But anyway, this fat guy, Chiquita, is that what he's called?
Takita, yeah.
He gave a quote, and I had to write it down because it just caught me so off guard, and that's saying something considering how used I got to the film's like complete lack of logic. He said, "The safety net of the ocean is non-linear, even with what crabs dream of."
Yeah, because
And I know
he's
you might be saying
it's
that I'm
because
taking
it's
the thing out of
fucking
context.
nonsense.
Yeah, it
He's
is
talking
nonsense.
nonsense.
Yeah,
Because
there was
it's
a lot of
fucking
nonsense.
dream that he doesn't realize he's dreaming.
Yeah.
Do you not find that? So I know you might say that this is more like what dreams actually are, and I would argue that. So from the dreams I can recall, some of them are as random as the ones in what do you call it, a Paprika. So some of them are a lot more tied to reality, and those are the ones that I find I just can't tell if actually I'm in a dream or not. Um, but I find that I can get a mixture of either of the two. But regardless of whether I just have dreams in one in one particular way and dreams in the other, the basic issue I have is that when I watch a film, I want to enjoy the film, And the issue with Paprika was that it was so ridiculous that I just couldn't take it seriously one bit. And the reason why I'm saying this to you guys is not only because this is actually the way I thought about it, but also if you want to convince me that there are better films out there than Nolan's, just keep in mind that if what goal you have is that you're trying to convince me there are better films out there than his, word of warning, if you try and introduce me to films like Paprika where there is no linear structure, I'm going to be lost. Just a warning
Well,
out
I
there,
think
because
that's
I do actually
part of the
want you to
point
give
is
your
to get you to
absolute best
appreciate.
shot.
Yeah. But I think one, I hadn't seen this film. I just heard that it's
Oh, I thought you
superficially
had.
similar. No, I'd never seen it. I'd heard about it. I knew
Oh.
it was inspiration. I knew it was about dreams, and so I was like, "Cool, this is a good." It's a good introduction because it's surface levelly the same sort of film, right? The
Very
plot is
different.
similar. Brain connect to brain, go in dream. That is the same thing in both. But I think we should keep going non-linear, and not every time, but I think we should because I think it challenges you to see more in the art form of film than just story, which I think is not to call it an issue, but it's your main issue with not having a open mind about the different channels in which you can explore concepts and ideas through the format of 24 frames per second feature length moving images.
I'm all down for films that are primarily.
Well said.
But I just
A
don't.
great little speech.
But I think
Sorry.
with this, I'll watch it and I think I've learned absolutely nothing. Like
Yeah,
this
fair
film
enough.
has just
I'm not
left me.
saying. I'm
You
not
should
saying.
watch it
I-
again.
My mind has been.
Yeah, I wanted to watch this
like,
again, and I
completely
won't say I love this movie.
I want to watch this again. I don't love it either.
I gave it 4 star on Letterboxd. It was between 3.5 and 4, so it's pretty close to Inception. But I want to watch it again, and I found it way more to chew on creatively. Like it pleasured my brain more than Nolan's tricks, which I might just be used to them, but he does have his bag of tricks, and I'm over it. I'm over his bag
Fair
of
enough.
tricks, and this was a new bag of
Fair
tricks.
enough.
Should we all rate it? So I'm going 4 star.
Are we really doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just to get
I'm not going to rate it on
Fair
this
enough,
round,
fair
but
enough.
in a future episode when I've rewatched this, because I really, really want to watch this again, because I think the first 45 you're definitely very confused, and then everything sort of makes sense, and it makes perfect sense and near enough by the end. But then rewatching it with that whole thing in mind would jump the rating up, because I would say right now it probably sit the same in Matt's, like maybe 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5. And it might go higher on a rewatch, which isn't something you could ever say about a Nolan movie. They're
Mine's
never
gone
higher
down
on
on
rewatches, are they? Yeah, a Nolan movie's never better on a
Yeah.
rewatch.
That being said, I have seen Inception probably 10 times, so it's
I've seen
taken
it about
10
10,
times for it to
15
get
times,
lower
yeah.
as well. And that might be a bias, like, you can overdo a movie, but I've also seen Goodfellas 10 to 15 times. and I watched Goodfellas for the first time 5 years ago, and I've not got sick of it yet. So, not rewatches don't always kill movies, that's all I'll say. But it's killing Inception for me.
I'll say Interstellar is probably his most rewatchable movie for me.
I like Interstellar. Anyway,
I like Interstellar.
any final thoughts? And then should we pick the next 2 movies?
Are we picking them now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Might as well. Let's lock it in.
So-
Or at least we should pick the Nolan movie. Maybe we'll take some time to come up with the comparison.
Yeah, let's pick the Nolan movie because, but you be the ones who are picking
It's
the films.
exciting.
I picked
Good
this
on
one, so
Nolan.
Ben, I recken you should pick this Nolan movie.
Yeah, you can pick
Hey,
the Nolan movie. Yeah.
I am going to pick Dunkirk because
Okay.
Cool.
I've
Then
not
we're doing Come and
seen-
See.
Nice.
Come and See.
I haven't seen that
Okay.
either. We're doing that. I haven't seen that. This
Is
will be my
Is
first.
that the one that's made by the Russian Kubrick?
Yeah. Kubrick? I don't know. Are you thinking Tarkovsky?
Is it
I don't think it's
Tarkovsky?
Tarkovsky. I don't think it is,
Oh.
but it's Russian. It's a Russian movie.
He's known as the Russian Kubrick, right?
I don't
Or
think
is
it's
that a
him.
different guy?
I think you're thinking of Tarkovsky, but I don't think it's him. It's
The one who made
It's
Storm.
Elem Klimov.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I've not
so
seen this
I'm happy
movie.
to do a war film comparison. Or would you not want to I was going to say Saving Private Ryan, but that might be too
No.
similar. You might want to. Okay.
No,
Saving Ryan,
I still haven't
Shaving
seen it.
Ryan's
Doing-
Privates.
we're not doing Shaving Ryan's Privates. We're doing Come and See.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank
stuff.
you to all of the film fanatics in the attics out there for listening in to our podcast once again. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to my co-hosts, Matthew and Ben, and we hope to see you on the next one. And until then,
Live
Fuck
long and
off.
prosper.
oh, nice.